All right, everybody, we're back for another season of Toronto Armchair Reactions. We've got myself and Gauch back again for another season. I don't know if we thought we would be back after how the season ended, but here we are again. So yeah, I'll just I think we'll get started just by talking about how we processed the end of last season and just go from there. So I'll let Ghost take it away, kind of get it up there, because I actually don't know what Ghost has been up to this summer. I went off the grid myself, so I don't really know what he's been up to.
Yeah, I
I don't know
mean,
what anyone on Leafs Twitter has been up to. I'll let him get started and see how it goes.
yeah, I just kind of went silent. Like I just stopped. Like I was like, fuck hockey. I'll be honest. I low key just paid attention to make sure the Habs didn't win, like because that would have just driven me nuts. Because that was like worst case scenario. Because in my head, like we had it all set up, right? And like this is just me at the end of the year. Like we had that path.
Yeah.
Like Winnipeg was not going to be an issue. Like Vegas, I thought would have been an issue, but like the way the Habs handled them. I mean, maybe the Habs were just a better matchup for Vegas, but regardless, I thought we would at least made it there. And then the Habs, like they seemed to get every bounce until they got to the end, and then in good old Habs fashion, they bitched and moaned about everything that happened to them, and at the end, so you know what, fuck them too. Anyhow, yeah, after that, I just was like, screw this. Like, I'm good. I just need to unplug for a while. Like, I'm not, like, I mean, we're used to this as Leafs fans, but like, my God, that one hurt. And so I was just like, all right, well, I got a baby. I'll just focus on the baby. Uh, the kid saw me a little happier, I guess. So that was kind of that was basically the summer. I just completely sorry, go ahead.
It's funny how no, I was just gonna say it's funny how like getting away from hockey, you realize how much happier you are without hockey.
Mm.
I It was the same for me. I literally just like even if we lost, I did keep tabs on the Habs a little bit just because for the same reason you said I did not want them to win. And
Nope.
because I don't know how I would have dealt with that for the years and years to come from Habs fans, just hearing how they not only beat us, but also made a deep run or won. That would have been devastating. So I kind of did the same thing, just had a really hockey free summer, got married, just been like furnishing our basement and kind of just putting the place together, focusing on anything other than the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I'll be honest, like I was telling Gareth this before, it's just for the first time in my life I felt like one of those jaded fans that was like, I don't care about like any regular season success. I don't want anything other than playoff success at this point. Like if we don't win a round next season, I'm done, and I'm not even paying attention until the playoffs start. But then All or Nothing came out, and I told myself I wasn't going to watch it because I didn't want to go through that pain again. But watching it all just reeled me back in, and I'm ready. I'm ready for another season of whatever is going to happen to us. So, yeah, exciting. I'm excited. I'm excited. It's funny, like I'm back. Kind of looking at lines, thinking about line combinations. We're really excited about like what our team can do with the proper pieces, and I think Keith really instilled confidence in me. Dubas instilled. I one thing I will say is watching that series, I have more faith than ever in our coach and our general manager. It's the players that are still, a little bit concerning to
Yeah,
me, but
no,
I
I
think we
think
put better
I
pieces around
definitely
our
agree with
stars
that.
this year, and we'll get
And
into that in a couple
I
minutes.
started watching it. Like I watched it very late. So, like I saw all of Twitter, watched it like the first 2 days, and I was just like, yeah, that's nice. Like fuck you guys. I can't do that to myself. And then I started to see like what people were like the early reviews, and it was very very much. It was very much like interesting how they thought it was revealing about certain players. And then at that point, like I was curious, like what it was that like it was showing us. Like I thought I knew like everything there was to know about the team in theory, but I was like, well, screw it. So I've only actually watched the first 3 episodes. Like again, I've made this painstakingly long just because like I don't like to sit there for too long and relive the hurt. But at least in the first 3 episodes, yes, like I definitely agree. Like so far, Keith seems like he's the coach. Like in my head, he is the coach of this team. Like there's no questions about it. Dubas, I mean, everyone who hates on this guy has, in my opinion, no clue what they're talking about. They act as if like he's just a stats nerd. That guy like lives and breathes hockey, grew up in hockey, is a generational hockey person. Like he's as
Yeah,
hockey as it gets. So like just because he wears glasses and maybe he's better looking
yeah,
than some of you people, doesn't mean you need to like hate him, right? Like it's the William Nylander thing. Like just because he doesn't take what you say seriously, and he's definitely better looking than most of the population, like people are offended. And so like it's just watching it. I don't know if like you want to get into any
yeah,
specifics there, but like one of the I think I thought it was interesting how much I thought it was cool like seeing some of the behind the scenes in that show, like just the fact that like between periods they'll literally pull something up and be like, yo, look at this, don't fucking do that shit again, like shit like that. But like it's cool being able to see how real time they can do this. It was also hilarious
yeah,
watching Dubas and his
yeah,
magnets trying to figure out what the fuck can work in the cab. It's like, yeah, I think this can work. Wait, Brandon, does this work? Yeah, okay, this works, guys.
yeah,
So that shit was hilarious,
yeah,
and honestly, like Jason Spezza, like I know like he wasn't ever really focused on, at least not in the first few episodes,
yeah,
but to me, the dude, he's
yeah,
he's just the guy, man. Like I can't believe he hasn't been a Leaf longer. He seems like he was always a Leaf. Joe Thornton did
yeah.
piss me off though, so go on.
It's funny, like how good. Yeah, 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 yeah. I was just gonna say that I feel like there, like certain people came across so well in this series, and others really didn't. Like I think Spezza came off really well. Nylander came off like really, really well. I think that even Mitch, like there were parts of it that made me feel for him a little bit more than I did during the season,
Yeah,
or during what was going on. I still don't like take back my anger. I think, but I I don't consider myself part of that group that like went after him personally, because as soon as the season ended, like I said what I said about his play during the playoffs, and then after that I stopped watching hockey. So whoever like kind of went off on him personally after in the months after, like get a grip. I read some of the stuff I think that was going on about him personally, and like things people were saying is obviously not acceptable.
yeah,
But I mean, I don't take back any of the criticism I had for him because I think it was justified. Like his play specifically, but I think as a person, you could really see that he cared, right, and that he wants to be better, and that's all you can really ask for. So I think certain players came across really well in that way, and then others, like you said, Jumbo, and Mikheyev for me, I really didn't like how he came across in the docu series. He seemed like annoyed at ice time, and for someone missing like 600 chances a
yeah.
game, I really don't know if he warranted more ice time. VC came across really like just complaining and like not understanding his role. Like it painted some guys in a really bad light, and it was interesting to see that side of the game, like how invested certain players were in the team and how others like were more interested in their own kind of play in their own
Yeah,
personal
see,
kind
the
of
only thing about Mikheyev I
I guess
found,
glory.
he seemed off, but I didn't know if it was the language barrier too, right? Like he still is not completely fluent, and I was like, well, is he just and I was just like, well, was this just him being kind of just not there and just kind of looking like that because of the language barrier, or is it just him being? I couldn't tell, but like yeah, like if at face value, McCabe didn't come out
Yeah,
well, and I remember I did like seeing. Well, like so. I just finished episode 3 like this morning. And uh, it it seemed like Keith felt the exact same way I felt about Anderson, and that I know Sheldon Keefe does not know me, but it brought me and Keith together. Like
Yeah,
we became like this
that was
after
cool.
that. Like we're buddies now because you could tell he felt the exact same thing. He's like he
Yeah,
wanted him to succeed, but it was like, dude, like come on, man. And like that moment
yeah,
where when he's like told
yeah,
Steve to fuck off, like for defending him, like I was like, yeah,
yeah,
that legit felt like me telling everyone to fuck off for defending him. I'm like, I get it. He
yeah,
was good for his first three
yeah.
years.
Yeah. That was
Yeah,
yeah,
it was
that was
interesting. But
my
I
coach
mean,
moment.
there's
Yeah,
so much that we could do an episode in itself. So we don't necessarily have to get into it. But like I
yeah,
just like the quick hit notes were like I know I'm gonna miss Hyman. Um, Campbell like trying to play through a torn groin for the last few minutes. Like I didn't realize he looked up and told a teammate, "Yeah, I just tore my groin. I'm gonna continue playing so and try to troop this out." Like that's someone who you're rooting for, and yeah, man. Like it was nice to see
yeah,
like the human side of people, right? Like it's nice to see Dubas with like
yeah,
his 3-year-old. It's nice to see Tavares is just as robotic as ever, except he has like a loving family that supports an Android. It's just it's
yeah.
been an interesting watch. I know I'm kind of procrastinating on the fourth and fifth episode because I know the closer I get to the fifth episode, like the more sad I'm gonna be. So, but I gotta finish it before the season begins. I almost like just kind of have to do it. Rip off the band-aid.
I mean, the fourth episode is great because things are peachy, and then things start to head south in the fifth one. But it's a good watch. I think it gives us a good it gives you good insight into like which guys you want around, and I think we've kept a lot of those guys. So I think that's a good segue into kind of just bringing up the lineup and talking about what the lines are looking like, what the team's looking like, and what we've kind of done in the off season. So I'll pull up the lines here and see if we can take a look at those. Let's see if one second, sorry.
Oh yeah.
Can you see that? So I guess like obviously this is without Austin. Um, he typically probably go in that number one C spot with where JT is. Um, Let's talk about the guys. Like I think the three big names that we've brought in are not they're not big names by any means. Actually, the four guys that we brought in that are in the lineup: Nick Ritchie, Michael Bunting, David Kampf, and Andre Kasha. I think they fill the roles that we needed filled with young players that can play those roles, right? Like young-ish players, not like 40-year-olds. So it's nice. I tweeted this out a while ago. Like I am beyond ecstatic that Joe Thornton will never play first line again. Like he's a nice guy. I think he came across as a good human being. As much as like as a player, I was kind of annoyed with him for some of the things that he said. He came off as a good person, obviously, but as good a person as he is,
He's the good
I'm
cop
so
like
ecstatic
kind
that
of
he
role
will
in this
never
team.
play first line minutes for us again. Like I think Nick Ritchie's scored a little bit in the preseason. He brings a little bit of tenacity to that first line. I think Austin
Yeah, sorry, I like
Yeah,
interrupted
I
us
think
because
those are good, but
the
I'm
feedback there.
interested
But
to
I
get
was
your
saying
thoughts.
Joe Thornton was kind of playing the good cop role, but the only problem is like Joe, like dude, like you're 40, you want to win the Stanley Cup. Like he's definitely obviously still going to be competitive. Like you don't stay that long in a league without being competitive. Like it was that I think what bothered some people was that offhand remark, like, "Hey, we're in first place," when like Keith called that players meeting like to just talk to them about what's going on and stuff early in the season. And it was just like he just comes off really badly there because it's like, dude, like, come on, man, like you're trying to
Yeah,
win here and not be like, hey, but we're in first place. Let's just chill out on this. Like, no, man, like you should know better than anyone. Like the Sharks used to be perennially in first place and constantly lose. So like, no, like you should be the one telling them like, yeah,
yeah,
no, we can't like rest on our laurels. Like it was funny because she like Keith like saw this a mile away. So going back to the lineup, like I completely agree. Like they definitely did fill out. I mean, again, for everyone who like keeps yelling about Dubas and all that stuff, like when he signed Nylander, when he signed Marner, when he signed wow, like I almost had a Freudian slip and called Matthews Ovechkin there. That was when he when he signed Matthews, um, it was there was an expectation that the cap was still going to go up. So like people complaining about this mismanagement, like you were talking about people now being
yeah,
paid on a flat cap situation and being squeezed, and you're comparing that up against guys who were in a pre-pandemic world that were assuming that the cap was continuously going to go up. Most of those contracts, especially the young players, always look better. Leon Draisaitl, Leon Draisaitl, when he signed, people said he got overpaid. Like people said he was overpaid. I guarantee half the people that are blowing him off right now call him overpaid, right?
yeah,
So now with the flat cap in mind, like we just got to realize, okay, well these guys have to fill it out without not much money. So I thought they did the best they could. I mean, they filled it around. They took a bunch of flyers. They got guys who can play some greasy minutes, crash the net, and score some dirty goals, right? Like uh, Bunting looks like he doesn't really have any other thoughts other than like going to the net. The same, to be honest, all of them look like that. They seem like they'll do their job, right? And so even if a few of these flyers work, I think Dubas did a good job kind of building around it. And anyone who's going crazy over Adam Brooks or like Jared McCann, still like just
yeah.
get over it, guys. Like we're nitpicking on third, fourth liners. Like it's crazy.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, I think the thing for me is I also really like
Yeah.
that they signed David Kampf just because it finally gives us like a shutdown center. Like I know we tried to like create Nazem Kadri Frankenstein shutdown center, and he did that well, but he was never like really a shutdown center. So it's nice that we finally have one. I don't know where he came from. I will admit I knew nothing about him before Dewis picked him up, but clearly they really like the player, and I think in the preseason he's shown that like he can be very effective in that role. So I'm excited to see like what Keith does with that, like having an actual shutdown center. And we've got the pieces to put on that line to actually create a shutdown line. Like I think if Mikheyev, I mean now he's injured, but if he, I guess we did have the pieces. But now he's out for 8 weeks. But it
Yeah, I
would have
mean,
been nice
Mikheyev
that
was going to
they
get
can
a lot of those
have a
minutes.
shutdown line, you know?
No, no, I was saying Mikheyev was going to
So
get a lot of those kind of
I'm
minutes, and
still
now I'm curious
go ahead.
who wins those minutes. Like, do you
Yeah.
think Engvall gets back in eventually and wins some of those minutes, or what's the deal there?
I think McCabe being injured. Yeah, I think McCabe being injured gives Engvall a spot in the lineup. I think otherwise that dude was going on waivers. But I think the timing of the injury really saved his career as a Leaf because I think he would have got picked up. So and then we would have been having a whole other discussion on Twitter about how Dubas let Pierre Engvall slip. But I'm glad we don't have to, at least for now. I think, McCabe being injured gives Engvall those minutes. I think it'll have to probably end up sliding.
Was it Kerfoot?
Who plays second line center now? The line's back up. I guess Kerfoot is now second line center. I think he works well with Willie, so I think I'm okay with that. I think something that I'd like to talk about for a couple of minutes is the step that William Nylander took in the playoffs. I don't think enough people have been talking about it. He took a step, and I think that if he can even replicate 70 to 80% of that in the regular season and then kick that back up to 100 in the playoffs, this dude is going to easily score 30 goals and put up 80 points this season. That's my prediction. I think he's going to be an unbelievable revelation for people that doubted him. This is the William Nylander that we've been waiting for, and I think he's about to really show some people what he is and why people have been defending him for years and why he's still on this team. So I think he's about to take a big step, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, no,
Second line.
I don't think they'll do it right off the bat, but I would like to see a little bit of time with Nylander and Matthews playing together as well, just because that's sometimes like last year's the moments where Tavares did struggle. Like I did wonder if Mitch was a better fit for Tavares. Just stylistically to get him the puck where Tavares needs it. And Tavares does get to the kind of the dirty areas more. Mm-hmm. Nylander is still a creative and pass heavy forward as well. So and Matthews can play with anyone, right? And Nylander and Matthews have already shown that they have chemistry as well. So it would be nice to kind of flip it around as well, just so the league doesn't constantly have the same look to look at. You're just still shuffling between four great players, right? So. I think Nylander is going to be. I don't think it's a surprise at this point, but he's definitely going to be a revelation. I'm very curious to see this shutdown line. If Keefe does use it as a shutdown line and abuses it, I'd love to see it. And I just want to know what we have in Nick Ritchie and Michael Bunting. In theory, I get what we have, but once Matthews is there. Is one of these guys going to become a poor man's Hyman, right? Even if they become year 2, year 3 Hyman, that's all we need. We don't need last year's Hyman. The last year's Hyman was great. Absolutely. Yeah. Would I love him back? Yes, but not at the price that we had him at, right? And then Bunting, he could just as easily go off and in the right situation score 20 goals, 18 of which were right in front of the net probably. So this is an interesting team, I think. What I'm most curious about is the goalie situation. We have Campbell and Mrazek, and I'm a big Campbell believer, and I think this year kind of solidifies it. But it seems around the league, people still have doubts, about Campbell, and that's interesting to see. There's every list you see, they rank the Leafs 10 of near the bottom, and I get it. We don't have the big name, we don't have the big contract back there now, but. Really, bottom, this. We do remember that Campbell started out with an NHL record, right?
I'm just gonna flat out say it. I think that's a joke. Yeah. That Jack Campbell holds the NHL record for most consecutive wins to start a season, and the dude is continuously disrespected. You don't win 11. I know obviously there's a break, but you don't win that many games in a row by accident. And if you don't have the talent, I think that Mrazek is looking. I think the really cool thing about this team is that everybody on it seems to be someone that is looking for a chance at redemption. Mrazek, was supposed to be the starter in Carolina and then just got injured, right? And then they just let him go. And I think that it's something that he wants to change the narrative on. Obviously, all our big stars have a narrative they want to change, and I think that we brought in the right pieces to really make to complement the star players that we have. Right, I think we didn't really have that identity that we. A lot of people use that word, and I kind of hate it, but at the same time, like we were looking for like everybody to play like Zach Hyman, or like every night line needs a Zach Hyman, for example, but we only had one. And now we've kind of got a couple guys that can play that role in like you said, in Richie and Bunting. And then you've got someone like Camp and Kasha and Mikheyev and Engvall, I guess that could be like a really defensively responsible line that then gets you matchups for Matthews and Tavares that are a lot more favorable. So I think the building of this team, the way it's been built, the way Dubas has really complemented our star players, I'm a lot more hopeful this season. I think our team on paper is actually significantly better than it was last season. Like think back, we were starting last season with Joe Thornton, Jimmy VC, and these guys as like our left wing options, right? When Zach Hyman wasn't in the lineup. And now that's like we saw what Zach Hyman could do in a third line role. When he played with Mikheyev and who did he play with? Mikheyev and Engvall, I think. Like that line looked really good because they were all playing to their strengths and what they were good at. But we didn't get that for a very long period of time because we couldn't then have our first and second line sustain any zone time. So it'll be nice to get guys like Bunting and Richie in those top two lines to really complement our top four, and then have a shutdown line at some point that can match other teams' first lines. So it's exciting. I mean, I really like this team. I like our defense a lot. I think Liljegren takes Dermott's spot very quickly. I don't think Keefe has a very long leash. One thing I learned in that documentary is that, like you said, Keefe and us are kind of on the same page. A lot of times I felt like Keefe during the season was thinking the same things we were thinking. So if I was Keefe, I would not have a very long leash for Dermott right now. And Liljegren looked really good in the preseason. So I'm ready to give him
I mean, the other thing is
makes a couple of bad
we
mistakes.
almost kind of badly need Sandin to take the next step. Like Rasmus really needs to take the next step for us. Like he needs to almost make it okay for us to lose Morgan, right? Like that's the other like elephant in the room, right? Like we're gonna walk Morgan Riley to the free agency, and like I have no problem with that. Like realistically, looking at the situation and what we had left, like how do you do this for this? Everyone's like, oh, you should have picked up the pieces. Everybody's also basically said Dubas his career's on the line. If you're gonna tell a guy his career's on the line or his job is on the line, why would he give away his top pairing defenseman? Like it just doesn't make sense, right? Yes, you could like get pieces back that might make you better for the next few seasons, but not right away. You're not getting anything of equal value for Morgan Riley. You get picks and futures, right? And so if that's the case, then like I get not trading away Morgan. Then I also get why not re-signing him, because we're already cap strapped, and then on top of that, look at what happened this offseason. Like the defenseman got like some obscene numbers. Like we just got screwed, right? So we almost need to just this year kind of needs to be great. And like unless Morgan Riley like really likes Tessa and really wants to stay in Toronto, like he's gone, right? And so we need Sandin to just become the monster that I think he has the potential to become. And if he does, and then Liljegren steps up, then we have our six, right? We still have our defense. Like we still need to work on some depth pieces there, but I'm really excited about our team there, right? Like, and then of course the big elephant in the room was the power play unit. The power play last year went from red hot to as predictable and as cold as ice. Like it was just sad to watch, and it got frustrating. And they would repeat the same thing again and again to a point where like my at the time, my infant, could identify what was going to happen. So it's nice that they replaced him. Malhotra like really did just had to not coach the power play again. So I'm glad he's not doing it anymore. And I didn't catch too much of the preseason because I've actually done my best to avoid as much hockey until right when the regular season starts. But like the clips I did watch, like it's interesting, like how watching Marner get the puck where he's getting it now. It seems interesting. Like it seems like there's going to be a lot more dynamic flow and then with Nylander and Matthews being a shot threat. Like I think now the goalies can't cheat on Matthews the way they were, and the defenseman can't just stick side to Matthews all the time now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think the power play for me, the last 2 seasons has been the same problem. It's just been really good, and then someone figures it out, and then they don't adjust. And so it looks really good right now, but until I see them make adjustments, when people figure them out, I'm still really worried because it's been the same group of players, right, for the last couple of years. And I think the thing that's really held them back, I think Malhotra is obviously a big issue, but it even happened the year before where as soon as teams figured us out, we could not, for the life of us, adjust. And that lasted for months and months and months afterwards. So we really need to, what will really be telling about if this power play is different or not is if when teams figure us out, can we figure out another way? And I think the way we've been set up, it gives us an opportunity to do that because, like you said, there is more than one play available, right? It isn't just Marner to Matthews and a shot. Marner's got multiple passing options. You got JT around the net, whether that's in front or behind or wherever he is. There's a lot of opportunities to make plays, so I'm really hopeful that this year our power play will figure it out because that should be one of our strengths. It should be something that other teams are petrified of. With the talent that we have, there should be no reason why we're not the best, if not one of the best power plays in the league, and that is something that wins us games, not just in the regular season, but in the playoffs as well. We should win playoff games because of how good our power play should be. And that hasn't happened in the last couple of years. Right?
It all comes back down to what the fuck they do in the playoffs. Realistically, we could say whatever we want, and they could win 60 games, and none of this matters.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting. Pardon?
They could win the division. I wouldn't care.
And it's possible, actually. I know, depending on whose preview you look at, some people say, they'll come in fourth. Some people have them in second. Some people have them winning the division. I do think they have a good chance at winning the division, but does it really matter? I think the only thing, I think the top 4 teams, in my eyes at least, are pretty solid for the division, unless something catastrophic happens. It's, in whatever order, in any order, Toronto, Tampa, Boston, and Florida. I think those are your playoff teams, right? Realistically, Ottawa needs another year or two, and if Brady doesn't come back, or if this prolongs with Brady, that team's still not, a playoff team, though exciting. Montreal, hot garbage. And Detroit and all, we don't. I don't think I think it's a solid 4 teams, and then there's a separation from that group. So I don't really see the what everyone else sees about it's no lock for them to make the playoffs. Come on, guys! This team is going to make the playoffs. It's not have ever been the issue though. Unless something catastrophic happens, this team makes the playoffs. The problem is what happens once they make the playoffs. Now, the only glimmer of hope I have is that this is going to be truly the first real normal quote unquote season for Keith. This is a non-North Division, non-halfway through the season, non-COVID,
Yeah.
playoff type of season. So like I'd like to see what Keith does with the preseason he wants, the training camp he wanted, and now the team that he has, right? I'd like to see what he can do with
Yeah.
that. I'd love to see what Marner comes back with, but I think what we're gonna see this year is gonna be like God mode Matthews through the whole season. Like I think he's also gonna be on like some sort of level to show people last year wasn't a fluke. People are deflating both Matthews and McDavid's numbers just because they were in the North Division. And fuck you guys, like those guys are god, like other world
Yeah.
talents. Like it's crazy. Connor McDavid was doing those kind of numbers before anyway. Like you can't doubt him. And the same way, if you're not going to doubt Connor McDavid for putting up the points he did in the North, then like you can't doubt any of Matthews' goals. I think he goes for 60.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibilities. I think for me, a full healthy season for Austin, like people forget the dude had one arm for like 20 games last season and still put up 47 goals. Like in a 56 game season, 20 of those games the dude had like one functioning arm and still put up 47. Like I think 60 is well within the realm of possibilities. He is otherworldly. I think he absolutely dominates. If he stays healthy this season, I think 60 is well within the cards for him. I think him and Willie will be unreal this season. JT looks normal, like knock on wood. That made me feel really good watching him this preseason and even in the documentaries to some extent. Like after how gruesome that injury was, like looking at him and he looks the same for the most part. So I expect him to, with having his stick for the whole season, and not having to use end ball sticks for however long it was. I'm expecting him to have a really solid season as well as Mitch. So it all, I think, as always, it all comes down to how do our supporting pieces support the big guys, because the big guys will do what they're going to do in the regular season. By the way, in the playoffs, it's different. But in the regular season, how well do our supporting cast support our guys? And then in the playoffs, can they
Well, here's my
continue to
question then.
support our
Like,
guys? And can our
what
big guys
happens? Okay, with a
be our
full
big guys?
lineup, the two
And
guys
that's
I'm
what it's
most
going to come
curious
down
about
to.
is Kerfoot and Simmons. Like, where do they go? Right? Like Kerfoot. I like Kerfoot.
Yeah.
I think people always ride on him, and so I'm just curious.
I think they. Uh, yeah, I think Kerfoot, for me, like I really like him with Nylander and Tavares. If his production can go up playing a full season as a winger with those guys, I actually wouldn't mind him as our second line, like left winger, if he can put up numbers. If he plays like he played in the playoffs, playing with Willie, then yeah, I'm okay with him being there. I just don't know that he can do that,
Yeah,
and I don't want to be paying as much for him as we are for him to play on the third line. Because now our third line, it looks very much like our third line is going to be a down line, right? Like we've got the pieces to create a shutdown line there, so he doesn't fit there. And if he's not going
well,
to produce on
I
the
don't
second
necessarily
line,
think that he
then why are
doesn't
we
fit into
paying him as much
the
as
line
we
though.
are? So I think he's an enigma for me. I think a couple people whose jobs Mikheyev being injured might have saved are.
No, I was just saying, like, I don't think Kerfoot
Uh,
is necessarily not a fit for the shutdown line, but I agree, like, he's not a shutdown guy, but he can play an energy type role as well. So, like, I don't know, like, I mean, I don't know. I think he can play low event hockey if he wanted to. So I don't discount him. I also just don't want the third line to be it's just a KKK line. I just don't want it. Like it's just too many jokes out there. Like let's just not do it.
yeah, no, yeah, no. That's fair. I think Kerfoot's the odd man out for me. My ideal third line is Mikheyev, Kampf, Kasha, and then it depends on Bunting. I think that if Bunting can
Yeah.
show he can play in the top six, then where does Kerfoot go? Right? You're not playing him on the fourth line, so it's really there's a few jobs up for grabs this season. Obviously, with depending on injuries. But I think Kerfoot's the odd man out for me. Simmons, I think, showed that he can play on the fourth line on the wing, and I like Spezza, Simmons, and I guess Engvall or Mario. Um, to me, any line with Jason Spezza, I'm a fan of. So I'm okay with it. I'm just really happy with like the supporting pieces we picked up. So I'm interested to see how this goes. My prediction, I guess we can do predictions really quick. I think the Leafs finish second in the division behind Tampa, and then they play Boston again round one, and they win this year. That's my prediction. That's how they get out of
Yeah,
the
but the
first
thing
round.
is, the other thing with
poetry.
Kerfoot though
It's
is,
been written.
he's actually useful for times like this, right? Like when there's a major injury, even if it's only for 3 days, 3 games, uh, suddenly Kerfoot's valuable, right? Like he's all of a sudden like a guy you can plug in as your second guy center. Like obviously there's a massive talent drop off, but he's a guy you can plug in there, and so there is value in a guy like
Yeah.
Kerfoot, and that's why like I keep saying like he's this weird guy that you can kind of plug in a lot of spots. And like with injuries inevitable, he's a depth piece that he's almost Randall Grichuk on this team.
Yeah. It's not that I mind Kerfoot as a player. I just wish we weren't paying him 3.5 million. You know, like he's a utility guy, and I get that. It's just like, do I want to be paying 3.5 million for a guy that's like I don't know where he's gonna play, right? Like for guys like I think Richie, Bunting, like those are guys that can move like wherever in the lineup, but you're paying them accordingly. It's the guy that you're paying 3.5 million to. I think that kind of money right now with the guys that we have, like I don't know where he fits, where he justifies that amount of cap. And it's unfortunate because I like him as a player actually. It's just like I hate to be like thinking about things in terms of cap all the time, but I just
I
don't
mean,
know
that's
that
today's
he
NHL. Like you have to think about the cap, right?
justifies his
So
cap hit.
let's do something. I mean, I know like we're gonna try to cut this not go too long, but let's do something different this time. So who do you think the most improved player for the Leafs is? Yeah.
From last year to this year,
Okay, who's the MVP for this team?
William Nylander. MVP.
Who
It's gonna be Austin. If he stays
who do
healthy,
you think is
Austin.
gone at
No,
the
no question.
deadline?
MVP of the league.
Sorry, I said who do you think is might be gone at the deadline?
You cut out there. What was the last one? Who's
What do
gone
you
at the
think they get
deadline?
for him?
Alex Kerfoot, for sure. I think Alex Kerfoot's gone. I think they trade Alex Kerfoot
Okay.
for
How many games does Jack Campbell win?
defensive depth because I think we lost Bogosian, and I think they're gonna want some like heavy playoff performing or like just some steady like playoff guy because like we know Muzz like picks up Nicks like quite frequently. Um, and if Muzz goes down, we've seen what happens to our decor. So I think they're gonna want someone solid, but maybe not like too flashy.
Okay, yeah. So
So I
how
think
many
they'll try
games
to
do you
trade
think
Kerfoot for
Campbell wins?
defensive depth. Oh my god, this is like rapid fire. I didn't prepare for this. Campbell wins. Campbell wins 25 games this season,
Ooh.
and Mrazek wins.
So you
20
really have them
something,
as like playing as
low
a tandem
less
this
than
year,
Campbell,
right?
but 20 something. A tandem, yeah. I think Jack will be healthy, but just knowing his injury history, I feel like it'll be a tandem, not by
Fair enough.
any fault of
And
Jack's, but out of necessity.
do you think Keith wins the Jack Adams Trophy this year? Yes, no. All right. Oh, actually, no. The most important question
Absolutely,
now is
yes.
this: do you
Absolutely.
think they finally
Yes.
fucking win a playoff round?
Yes. You know what? I think I've been thinking a lot about this, and I think that in order for us to really move on from this whole like first round thing, we need to go back where it started and beat Boston. And I think that the Leafs, like I said a little bit ago, I think the Leafs finished second in the division behind Tampa. Boston finishes 3, and I
I
think the
really
Leafs
don't want
beat
to have to
Boston
play Boston,
with
but
home
I
ice.
get it. Like we need to exercise those demons, but oh man, I really don't want to play them.
It'll feel so good though, man. It, like for everything I think it's culminating in this moment. I think that's what everything we've been through, the euphoria after that, I
You
think
say so?
would make everything worth it. That's my guess. Okay, I'm not gonna remember all the questions you asked, but I want your predictions on the Leafs most not most valuable or most improved, but give me like a player that you think is going to like underratedly have a crucial season. Like someone that kind of like
Um,
lays in the shadows but is like
I
vital
mean,
to
it's
the next
between
step.
okay. So like, I think Bunting is gonna do like some serious damage with us. He's just gonna stand in front of the net and tap stuff in. Like he's gonna. But I don't know that he's gonna be in the shadows. Like I think everyone's gonna be watching him. Like because it's the Leafs. There's no one really in the shadows on the Leafs, right? Like that's the curse of the team, right? Like you're on the team even if you're for $750,000, you're being
Yeah.
watched. Like if you're Alex Galchenyuk, your decision not to come back is gone through 7 million times. Like it's just that's just the way the Leafs are. We are the center of the hockey universe. So I don't know about in the shadows, but I think Bunting's gonna do some damage. He's gonna get like 20 goals maybe, and 17 of them will be tap-ins. And I think he might actually flip onto that first line a bit, get some time with Matthews and Marner. And like I think Marner's just gonna have a field day just giving him tap-ins. And then the other guy I wanted to mention was just Spezza. Spezza just continuing to show that he's valuable at the 11 to 13 minute per game mark. Like he's just a guy that continues to impress. Pardon?
Dude, I wouldn't be shocked if 20. Yeah.
Spezza will do it.
I was just saying I
Spezza
wouldn't
will
be
do it.
shocked if he scored 20 somehow this season. But yeah, no, those are good picks. Um okay, so I think with that, one more prediction I want from you. Who do you think the Leafs playoff MVP is? Because I think both of us are hoping for a deep run. But
The
who's the
pick
Leafs
has to be either one
playoff
of
MVP?
Matthews or Marner. Like you have to pick one of those guys, right? Like at the end of the day, we're only going to go as far as our true superstars take us. I just think like it's going to be Matthews just because I have a little bit more faith in Matthews. Marner, like he can exercise
Yeah.
demons. Maybe he figures it out and he doesn't, shoot the puck over the boards. or the Glass, sorry. Like he'll figure it out, and I think he'll have a fine playoffs. But I think we're gonna see what we saw last year from Matthews, but over a full season and against like varied talent. And I think you're not gonna keep him to that many goals again in the playoffs. Like it was a fluke. Like if you saw his shot chart and where he was getting his chances, and the amount of crossbars he hit, like his expected goals were definitely not what he got, right? So like Matthews is gonna blow up, and so I think we win at least 2 rounds. I don't know if we can go further than that. I'm not gonna say we're going on a cup run, but I think we can win 2 rounds. And if we win 2 rounds, it's gonna be Matthews scoring like an ass ton of goals.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I think that's solid. Okay, perfect. So I think, I'm with you. I think we tend to agree on a lot of things. I'd add Nylander to that conversation just because I think that he showed us that he is a goal a game guy in the playoffs, and I don't think that stops. So, but I think you're right. We'll only go as far as our stars take us, and hopefully this is the year where they can kind of figure everything out. And just before we wrap up, I do want to kind of just take a couple minutes to let everybody know like what our plan is for this season. Obviously, during the playoffs, we were doing like fan reactions after every game. We still do want to get people in here with us, but what we're going to do for the course of the regular season, just obviously because we can't do videos after every game, I think we're probably going to just do like a roundtable discussion style thing after once a week. Probably we'll just sit down probably on the weekend and just put out an episode and just really start to get a better understanding of how the season's going, talk to some of you guys, and really just hone in on how the Leafs are doing. We love talking to the people in our fan base, and I think that that's something we definitely want to continue. But we're just going to do it once a week during the regular season, unless there's obviously something big that happens. We'll probably make some one-off episodes. One of the things that Gauch and I have already talked about is we do want to do an episode on like racism in hockey. I think that obviously being people of color in the hockey space has obviously given us opportunities to experience a lot of racist stuff and racism and how it impacts people of color that are fans of this sport. So we're going to probably put out an episode on that at some point. But I'm hopeful that, we'll be able to keep it up once a week, and then we'll go from there. And then once we get to the playoffs, we'll probably pick it up once.
Exactly it. I mean, that's
Josh, I don't know if I missed
what to expect for the season. Will definitely be a lot more lively once the season gets going, because we'll be losing our minds over something that happened. So expect things to get crazy. Expect my swear per minute to really ramp up to playoff levels as the playoff comes up. I should get into the good F words per 60 rate, and then let's get this going, guys. It's the fucking Leafs. They keep pulling us back in.
Awesome. Yeah, so I think that about wraps it up. So this is our season preview show. We'll hopefully, we'll have a couple games in by the next time we talk to you all, and give you guys our thoughts on how the Leafs look in the first few games of the season without Auston Matthews, unfortunately. But I'm glad that he's going to be back at 100% and hopefully tear it up.
I picked him up in 2 leagues, so I absolutely believe in that.
Gauch predicted earlier. Yeah, I went for the strategy of just picking as many leagues as I could. I grabbed JT, Mitch, Richie, grabbed Austin in one, Willie in all but one league. I was looking at Willie,
but I just I knew based off of who was in the league, he was definitely gonna get taken. I'm either out of spite for us, or and I was just it just wasn't where I wanted him and the way I was building the team. But hey man, I got Austin in that league, so I was just all right, fuck it, I'm running with the big gun.
Yeah, 60 goals, easy. All right, man. Well, we'll chat with you guys in a week or so, but yeah, keep it tuned here. We'll keep you guys updated. All right. Peace out.